All right, Pam Morse Walton, could you please talk to me?
Yes, good morning. This is the day that the Lord has made. We will rejoice and be glad in it.
Amen.
Okay, I can hear you on Facebook.
Okay. Great. Okay. All right, very good. Very, very good. Okay, let me just go here real quick. Okay, let me pull this up here. Okay, can you turn up, I just need to hear the station, Devin. Thank you so
Is that better?
much. Yeah, yeah. Otherwise, I don't know if I've lost you.
I'm Jack.
Understandable.
Okay, thank you.
AP News.
This is 820 AM, WCPT Willow Springs, and streaming worldwide at WCPT820.com. We are Chicago's progressive talk, where facts matter. Now, your WCPT 820 weather update.
From the Weatherology Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Jennifer Wojcicki. We'll see a few scattered showers and thunderstorms here for today with cloudy skies, a high in the mid-60s. East winds at 5 to 10 miles per hour, gusting as high as 20. Then for tonight, a slight chance for showers and thunderstorms, mostly cloudy, a low near 50. Tuesday, sunshine, a high of 70 degrees. Wednesday, plenty of blue skies and sun, high of 74. Thursday, partial sun, high of 79 degrees. That's your latest Chicago weather update. Currently, it's 53.
Attention homeowners that have ever had a broken appliance. That's a joke, right? We've all had broken appliances. I own a home just like you and have found a way for as little as $1 a day to have all the major appliances in my home on a warranty plan. They're guaranteed to be fixed or replaced. You know how expensive an air conditioner, the heating system, a washing machine, dryer, water heater, or refrigerator can be. For about $1 a day, all your major appliances are protected in case they break. Unless you're Daddy Warbucks or the Monopoly guy and you don't care about money, call my friends at the Home Service Club now and get a warranty on your major appliances. It's a free call and the first month is free. But be one of the first 25 people to call within the next 10 minutes.
800-814-5615. 800-814-5615. 800-814-5615. Again, that's 800-814-5615.
Transitioning from being a Marine to a civilian was very hard. I lost my purpose. I lost the drive that I had. That is a very dark and lonely place to be. It took me surrendering to myself to get the help.
Okay, how much time do I have, Devin?
At my very
You have about 2.5 minutes.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
You need to have the courage.
You're welcome.
to Forgive yourself for the things you've done in the past. I got it tattooed on my hand. One night, my depression kept telling me, you can end this. And just before I was about to pull the trigger, I looked down at my hand, and that's what saved my life that night. That was the beginning of my incredible journey with the Wounded Warrior Project.
See how we help warriors combat stigma at woundedwarriorproject.org/combat stigma.
You're listening to WCPT 820, because facts matter.
Did you get it?
Yes, good job.
So, what should I do with all these coals?
Don't just toss them out. Put them in a metal container because those embers can start a wildfire.
I understand. The stakes are high.
Ha, 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 ha.
Learn more at SmokeyBear.com.
Brought to you by the U.S. Forest Service, your state forester, and the Ad Council.
Some people won't give you the real talk on drugs, but it's time we know the facts. Fentanyl is often laced into illicit drugs and used to make fake versions of prescription pills. You can't see it, taste it, or smell it. Suppliers mix fentanyl into their products because it's potent and cheap, and the dealer might not even know. Keep yourself and others safe by knowing the real deal on fentanyl. Get the facts. Go to realdealonfentanyl.com. This message is brought to you by the Ad Council.
Hi, I'm Mark.
All right, 60 seconds.
Global Neighborhood Safe is a tough job, one made just a bit safer with the help of America's brave military dogs. These dogs, who often take the same risks and make the same sacrifices as our human warriors, keep our troops safe by sniffing out bombs and IEDs, locating enemy positions, and bringing a sense of comfort and home to an almost unimaginable circumstance. Yet, when these brave K9 heroes retire, they're not always given the same treatment as our military VIPs, and are too often left overseas. American Humane works to bring home these valiant dogs and reunite them with the people who mean the most to them, their handlers, so they can enjoy happy, healthy, well-deserved retirements. To learn how you can help America's four-footed heroes, visit AmericanHumane.org.
10 seconds.
Okay, thank you. Let's have a great show.
We can change the world, change the world, change the world. We can change the world, we can change the world, change the world.
This is the Santita Jackson Show.
War and hate to a place of love, it's not too late. Gotta save the children, we can't wait. Let's change the world.
Hey everybody, welcome to the Santita Jackson Show. It's a joy to be with you. I hope you've had a wonderful weekend. We're deep in May. Can you believe this? Yeah. It's May 8th, 2023, Monday. Rise and shine and give God your glory. I am Santita Jackson. It's a joy to be with you today. We've got a lot to talk about. We've had 200 plus mass shootings. We've not even had 200 days in the year. Let's talk about that. But let's look at something that's happening to migrants. I heard the president say something very interesting in an interview just a couple of days ago, and it was almost as an aside. He said, we do need farm workers. Look, bringing these immigrants in to work in our farms is a corporate decision, just as bringing Africans into the United States was a corporate decision. Corporations needed people to work, and they didn't want to pay. 200 years ago, 400 years ago, they paid nothing. Now they pay you virtually nothing. So we need to talk about that because this young man plowed into these migrants looking for a break, trying to come to the United States. These people are not immigrating here as much as they're running here because of the mischief that we've committed in their home countries. And so now, at least 7 are dead. What does that say about, and this dehumanizing language that we use about migrants and immigrants is just awful, particularly about the brown and black ones and the yellow ones. Let's talk about that today. Let's talk about what happened in Texas, in Brownsville, Texas, yesterday. But also let's talk about the case of Jordan Neely, the Michael Jackson tribute performer, really quite a brilliant performer. He was killed last week by a 24-year-old Daniel Neely, who is a Marine veteran. And if anyone who's lived in New York, as I have, when you get on the subway, you're going to hear someone who's going to say something that's a little out of order. They're shouting, they're screaming to themselves and to everybody else, and you just kind of steel yourself and you keep on going. Everybody takes a subway in New York. Well, this young man was saying that he didn't care if he was going to die. He was hungry. He was just clearly in despair and in a lot of trouble. And but the witnesses said, but he wasn't physically threatening anyone. So this gentleman took it upon himself to hold him down in a chokehold for 15 minutes. The coroner said that the cause of death is homicide. Protesters have come out saying that you should not treat another human being this way. Now, they've been arrested, but the young man who choked Jordan Neely to death, Daniel Neely, he's not been arrested. Would you explain that to me? Let's talk about that. Really. Call me at 773-763-9278. How does that work? The coroner says it's homicide. The person who committed the homicide doesn't get arrested. They get visited by the police. But the protesters who say that this is wrong, they're arrested. call me 773-763-9278. I just want to know if there's something I'm missing here. Tonight at 6 o'clock, I will be interviewing Congressman Jonathan Jackson at his town hall meeting. I'm going to get the address because I hope to see you all there. It's going to be we're going to have a wonderful, wonderful time. I'm so looking forward to that. Yes, he is a Jackson. Yes, he is my brother. And yes, I'm very, very happy to be doing that. That's kind of what I do. But we'll be talking about the committees that he's on, what he thinks about just all of the issues that are facing us right now. I mean, he's in the midst of that debt ceiling fight. And I don't know if there are any answers right now, but we do know that it is a mess. And for his portion, he did get his MBA from Northwestern's Kellogg School of Management. So the economy is something that he really does understand, and I cannot wait to hear him talk about not only that, but our job prospects and so much that is going on and what he hopes to see in his district, what he hopes to be able to deliver. So can't wait to see him. I'm going to get the address for you so I can see you tonight at 6 o'clock. So let's get right to it, everybody. We got a lot going on, a whole lot going on, everybody. Investigators are examining the Texas gunman's white supremacist views after he killed 8 people. The gunman who opened fire on the outlet mall in a Dallas suburb on Saturday, killing at least 8 people, had an apparent fascination with white supremacist or neo-Nazi beliefs that are now being examined by investigators. This investigation into Clarence and Virginia Thomas just won't stop. U.S. Supreme Court Justice Clarence Thomas and his wife Virginia Thomas are under fresh scrutiny as yet another revelation, this one reported by the Washington Post, on Thursday evening shows that Virginia Thomas received tens of thousands of dollars in an off-the-book compensation from a powerful right-wing nonprofit shortly before the group, quote, soon would have an interest before the court, a pivotal voting rights case. What do you think about that, everybody? Call me at 773-763-9278, 773-763-WCPT. Should they now revisit the voting rights case? Let's see how these justices voted. We're seeing so much corruption in the court, not just with Clarence Thomas. Oh, no. The rot is deep, everybody, and we need to talk about that. Are you watching the NBA playoffs? Are you, everybody? The Suns 129, the Nuggets 124. They are tied in their series. The Knicks versus the Heat tonight. The Heat are leading in that series 2-1. The Warriors versus the Lakers. The Lakers are leading in that series 2-1. Who you got in that, everybody? Who's going to get Lord Stanley Cup's trophy? Yes, he is royalty, everybody. The Hurricanes, they fell to the Devils. The Devils 8, the Hurricanes 4, the Panthers 3, the Maple Leafs 2, the Kraken 7, the Stars 2. The Golden Knights will be playing the Oilers tonight. Then Major League Baseball. The Guardians shut out the Twins 2-0. The Marlins 5. The Cubs 4. The Cubs will be playing the Cards tonight, and the Twins have the night off. Check this out. White Sox 17, the Reds 4. Ooh, watch out, Royals. The White Sox are coming for you tonight. And those are just some of the headlines on the Santita Jackson Show. Let us speak with our gospel sister. I was so glad to have this great woman of God with us on Mondays, whenever she can make it. I'm so honored to have her with us. And Pam Morris Walton, Mrs. Walton, our gospel sister, the author of 57 Days. Now, what's the rest of that title?
The Wait for a New Heart sparks a spiritual journey of faith and love.
I love it. I love it. I love it.
Thank you.
Thank you. Everybody get that book. It is going to bless you. I just stopped at 57 days. 57 days. 57 days. But boy, oh boy, you never know that she has been through what she's been through, but she's grown through as she has gone through. And we're so glad about that. Our gospel sister, talk to us. What's the good news today?
Well, let me tell you this before I speak of the good news. Let me tell you that yesterday afternoon, when I heard from you, I was actually at a program where a lady informed me she was on her third read of 57 Days.
Oh, wow.
And it just blessed my heart to hear her say that. And we actually had some books with us and sold out what we had with us. It really blessed my heart. Santita, good morning, everybody. A lot is going on. A lot is going on. And you spoke of the amount of shootings this year. Well, everybody, we're today 128 days today in the new year that began January 1. The mass shootings have gone far past that, as you heard Santita. This past week on Thursday also, I attended the National Prayer Day breakfast. I attended another one later in the same day. I remember these songs that were recorded years ago. The Clark sisters recorded a song,
Pray for the USA.
The USA.
Amen.
Jesse Dixon recorded a song I remember years ago. I know what prayer
can do. Come on now.
Dorothy Norwood, the storyteller out of Alpharetta, Georgia, recorded a song I remember entitled Somebody Prayed for Me. The late Bishop Norman Wagner out of Youngstown, Ohio, spoke, sang, preached, prayer, did it. So today, when I hear Santita speak and I hear what's going on, it concerns me. It concerns me greatly. And I want to talk this morning. The good news is I have a prayer life. How about you? Our foundations are important. When we consider our prayer life, it's one of the most important things to understand is the foundation upon which prayer is built. Foundation is important, everybody. I was raised to pray. The foundations are what makes us strong and helps us run the race to the end. It has been said that prayer changes things. It has been said that prayer changes things. But the fact of the matter is that it is not just prayer that changes things. It's believing prayer that changes things. You got to believe. You got to believe that prayer changes things. Everything in God's kingdom must be done by faith. You heard hope. You've read, pray, Hebrews 11:6. But without faith, it is impossible to please God. Without faith, it is impossible. You can't even have a prayer life without faith because you've got to believe. No matter which prayer we pray, we must pray in faith. And I'm going to end with this. Matthew 7:7. Ask, and it shall be given to you. Seek, and ye will find. Knock, and it shall be open to you. For everyone who asks, they receive. And he that seeks, finds. And to him who knocks, it will be opened. Tell me about your prayer life. The good news is I have prayer life because the effectual prayers of a righteous man, woman, availeth much. That's it, Santita. We got to pray. We must pray.
Amen to that. And I love you, and we must work. Faith without works is dead, but you gotta pray. Prayer changes things. My father changes things. My father said, I have one request of you. That was that one last thing he told me just as I was walking out the door to go to college. I said, okay, what's that? He said, I want you to find a church. I was like, I went to church every Sunday. So I was like, oh, okay. He said, no. The storms of life hit without warning, baby. And if your soul is not anchored in the Lord, you will surely drift away. And I will have failed you as a father, and I cannot live with that. Just promise me that is what you will do. I want you to develop a relationship with your pastor. I need you to do that. Now, I must admit, I was a little slow about that. Pastor Gregory was my pastor at Shiloh in Washington, D.C. But that's one of those things that stayed with me. That's one of those things that has stayed with me. Yeah. How can we get your book?
Foundation. He told you that.
He told me that. He told me that.
Many years ago. Oh, yeah.
And it was many years ago.
Yeah. That was important.
Well, how can we get
Love
your
you.
book? No, love you, but how can we get your book?
Amazon.com, Barnes & Noble, iTunes. It's an ebook. Or if you want an autographed copy, which is what I sold out of this weekend, PamMorrisSpeaks.com on the website. Just order it. I'll send it to you free shipping, and I'll sign it.
I love it. I love it. I love it.
It's a good book.
You know what?
It's a good book.
It's
a good book.
Well, no, and you're a good woman. And you've got a lot of lessons. You know, and I've got Dr. Shanina Knighton here with us, infection preventionist, registered nurse.
Yes.
One of the things I want to ask her while you're here, Dr. Knighton, Pam Morris Walton is a heart transplant recipient. And many of us are very reluctant, particularly in the Black community, because we've been the victims of experimentation, you know, since slavery. So it's something that we kind of back away from until we need that kidney, until we need that heart, until we need that liver, until we need. What is there anything you can say that could help to allay our fears or reluctance about transplants? That is not the question I planned to ask you, but the Lord just put it on my heart to ask you that just now.
I think the overarching thing that I'm going to say, and it's not even necessarily directed to transplant, but it's just helping people to understand that when you operate from a place of fear instead of a place of faith, that we always end up in a bad situation. So while I understand that many people want to, I would say, crucify, make medicine completely negative, and sometimes about a thing when it comes to color and being distrustful of healthcare, we also have to recognize that even during, let's say, slavery, there were the abolitionists, right? There were the supporters, there were individuals that actually did do the right thing. And so when someone asks, let's say, about a transplant, when someone asks about a certain treatment, we have to erase out of our minds that everything is always negative and that it's tended to get us opposed to save us. And there are instances, for example, I have a friend who is my age right now, so 38, but he ended up having to get a kidney transplant. His mother gave him his kidney when he was like 20 years old. And it wasn't because of the fact of anything, let's say, drinking or something else. He had a condition to where one of his kidneys was not functioning correctly, and his mother gave him, you know, they were a match. That's not necessarily the case all the time. Sometimes you may have to get that match from a complete stranger, but it is something that can absolutely save your life. I had another friend where she ended up giving a kidney to a friend because he also had a kidney condition, and his wasn't functioning correctly, and so it was either if he didn't get a kidney, he was going to die. Dialysis was no longer helping him. And so I'm just bringing that up to say that I do know instances where things have worked out well, and we have to just stop making everything negative when it comes to the healthcare system and assuming that individuals want to do wrong. I know some good providers that are out there that are not necessarily African American that are very passionate about what it is that they do and are passionate about helping our communities. Now, I call them our crusaders, and you know, then you may not necessarily see them all the time. You may have, like, let's say, the one bad apple that spoils a bunch. I completely get it. But when you have a faith or understanding that these individuals are out there, then you will seek these people out, opposed to assuming, like, oh, the whole healthcare system is just bad. Oh, it's corrupt. Oh, it's this and oh, it's that. I do recognize wholeheartedly that there are a tremendous amount of flaws when it comes to insurance, when it comes to individuals being able to receive equitable care, when it comes down to, let's say, the left hand knowing what the right hand doing. I've seen instances where a cancer patient was given the flushes to be able to flush out his actual line, but his insurance didn't cover a nurse coming out to be able to do so. So there's definitely disconnects like within our system that makes it very hard for people to believe in the healthcare system. But I will also say that if we do not advocate, if we do not try to ask for the correct things, if we do not also, when we see things that are wrong or when we notice injustices, speak up about them, and they'll continue to happen. I had a lady recently whose husband was sent home, and she said they didn't send him home with half of the COVID medications that he had when he was in the hospital. And I said, this is the language that you need to use. I said, tell them that his medications may have fallen off of his discharge paperwork. She went back, told them that. They said, oh, okay, you are absolutely right, and they corrected it. So that is the thing that I tell people, too. We cannot expect that artificial intelligence, electronics, or anything that people are scared of to do our job completely, which is why we have to continue to critically think. If it is a difference between you getting a lung, getting a heart, getting a kidney, getting something that's important to save your life, are you going to be thinking at that time that something's going to be wrong? Or are you going to do your best to make sure that it's like that's the best chance that you have in order to be able to live? And so we have to think about it. Are we thinking through things in a manner for which to live, or are we thinking through things of a manner in which fear? And sometimes fear tends to keep us away from the best treatments. It tends to keep us from engaging in science in a meaningful way. I also, too, echo that because during the whole pandemic, I kept hearing, oh, like scientists are bad, scientists are corrupt, scientists are this, and scientists are that. And I just had to even correct family members and friends. When you make statements like those, you also speak against the good scientists like myself. Are there things that are done ethically? Are there things that are done bad? Yes, but it does not speak for every individual, especially those that are out here absolutely trying to do the right thing.
Dr. Shanina Knighton, everybody. You know, and thank you for that. Thank you for that, because, you know, that is an issue. But because Pam Morris Walton is so prominent in our community, people see her and they feel hopeful. You know, they say, you know, let me rethink being a donor. Let me rethink this. Let me, because, you know, but not for this person, she would not be here. And she has been giving us inspiration and information for decades. And we're so glad, so grateful to God that her life was spared and that her health has been restored. And so it's something for us to really think about. And we need to understand the system and understand the language to use. I mean, that's where we have to become, what did you say, the CEOs of our own health? You got to be the one, everybody. Oh, I promise you tomorrow I'm going to ask you a question about this child in Maine who's tested positive for measles. It seems that a lot of these childhood diseases that vaccines were able to really almost stamp out, they're resurging. We got to talk about that. But in the meantime, go to Hey Dr. Nina, HEYDRNINA, HEYDRNINA. Hey Dr. Nina. Follow her on in social media. Tonight, I hope to see you as I interview Congressman Jonathan Jackson, apparently. It's going to be a great, great, great event. It's a town hall meeting, so you can find out from your congressman what's up. And even if he doesn't represent you, you should come and ask. Because, you know, your congressman might not be here right now. I mean, and they work very, very hard. So let's talk about Jordan Neely. Choked to death. He was clearly struggling, choked to death. And the coroner said it's a homicide. Protesters have been arrested. The man who choked him has been interviewed, but he's not been arrested. What's going on? Back with more of the Santita Jackson Show in just a minute. Thank you all so much. Okay, let me do this. Are you all still there? Hello? Okay. Okay, hey, you all can talk to me. I am, you know me, I'm moving on to the next segment.
No, I got you. I think like sometimes when you be ending stuff out, I be stuck. Because I'm like, oh, now what we getting ready to talk about?
Oh, you know what? As I was talking to her, I mean, one day I want us to talk about transplants because we do have a need. But there is also a lot of fear. And it's not, these fears are not ungrounded, you know, and I'm not going to say to people, oh, you know, you're being ridiculous. No, you're being experiential. But at some point, you have to fight to make the system what it's supposed to be.
And I get that, but the other argument that I'm gonna make too is if for example, if you go to a restaurant and you have a great experience, and I'm not speaking for you per se, but like typically what happens, people will always report what happened negatively. They very rarely take time to report when things are going positive and when they've had that positive experience. And that, unfortunately, is the problem, meaning that when you have, a Pam Morrison, is it Morrison?
Pam Morris Walton.
Morris Walton. Okay, so when you have an experience such as hers that's positive, she'll spread the good news, which of course will make others spread the good news, but it's very rare that people will go out and spread the good news when they have those experiences. But instead, if it's a negative experience, it's, oh no, this happened to this, or this didn't work so well in my favor. And unfortunately, that's the news that tends to overshadow the good, unfortunately.
Well, it does. But bad news travels fast, sadly.
They do.
Sadly, it does. And there it is, but that's why but then, when you have, it's a horrible thing when you break trust, and that is what has happened. And so there we go. That's right. I had to get this. But we're going to have a discussion one day about that, because, this is a real issue. It's 5:30. Sorry, I've got to interview my brother tonight for his town hall meeting. I was looking for the information.
All right, 60 seconds and sending Shapiro, Attorney Wilson, Reverend Attorney Wilson, Dwight McKee, and Attorney Connolly. Attorney Hoffler and Attorney Wilson are both here, but they said they just got to put us on mute, but they should be ready by the time the show starts.
Okay,
fantastic. Get back.
Okay, just ask them, reiterate that we need them once we come up to come off mute. All right.
For sure.
Very good. Thank you. Dwight, Aaron.
Good morning.
Good morning. So glad to have you. Okay, stand by, everybody, and come right to me. All right. Very good.
All right, 10 seconds, everyone.
We can change the world, change the world, change the world. We can change the world, we can change the world, change the world.
This is the Santita Jackson Show.
War and hate to a place of love, it's not too late. Gotta save the children, we can't wait. Let's change the world. I am green.
Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the Santita Jackson Show. It is 6:35 Central Standard Time. Hey, AM 950 Radio up in Minneapolis, St. Paul, and WCPT 820, the nation's largest progressive talk radio station. Tonight, I will be at the Congressman Jonathan Jackson Town Hall meeting. I will be asking him some questions, interviewing him, and the doors open at 5:30. The event runs from 6 to 8, and guess what? It's at 27th and King Drive in the IBEW Local 34 Hall. It's going to be a great event, and I hope that you will be there, everybody. Get there by 5:30 so you can get a little snicky snacks. I love that. Yes, I do. And so please get on there so we can find these first 100 days, find out about the debt ceiling, find out what committees he's on. It's important, the committees that you're on, because they deliver. He's already been out of the country. He's on the Foreign Affairs Committee. So there's a lot going on, and we need to find out from him. And I told you, voting is the end of the beginning, not the beginning of the end. You must hold all of your elected officials accountable. And you need to come out to these events so that you can ask them questions, ask them what they're doing, and let them know what it is that you want so they can take that back to Washington. And I mean that with everybody. Hold everybody accountable. Do that. And we're going to be doing that tonight. July 15th through the 19th, the Rainbow Push International Conference. I hope to see you there. Go to rainbowpush.org or call 773-FREEDOM after 9 o'clock this morning. Chaparral, what's going on? We're coming on to the Mother's Day weekend. I cannot wait to get my greens and my string beans and maybe some baked chicken. I don't know. What's going on with celebrations by us?
Yes, Santita, and we are prepping for Mother's Day weekend. We are doing fresh flowers, so if you're needing bouquets for your mom, don't hesitate to give us a call, 708-526-4546, 708-526-4546. We're still doing prom setups. We have a couple of this weekend where we'll be doing backdrops as well as also custom food tables, as well as also our awesome food. We're never going to forget about the food, so give us a call at 708-526-4546. We'll have your green beans, your greens, your mac and cheese, your sweet potatoes, as well as also your spaghetti, masticholi. And don't forget the meat. We have our hot wings, barbecue wings, meatballs, whatever it is that you need for your celebration table. Don't hesitate to give us a call. 708-526-4546, and we look forward to serving you. Thank you so much, Santita.
Thank you so much. Hey, everybody, let's talk about Jordan Neely. He was a 30-year-old homeless man, one of these Michael Jackson tribute performers. In fact, he was excellent, but he was also in psychological trouble. His mother had been killed a few years ago under the most tragic of circumstances, and he never got over it. And that really exacerbated some problems that he had. And so he was ranting on the F train in New York City. And he was a regular on the subway because that's where he performed. That's where he made some money. And people tried to help him for years, but to no avail. He was just really in trouble. But in this car on that particular day was Daniel Penny, a 24-year-old Marine veteran. And after the military, he dropped out of college. He posted online that he felt completely unfulfilled, and now he was looking for a bartending job in the city. And this is all from the New York Times. And so when Jordan Neely, who was homeless, was behaving erratically, shouting to people that he was hungry, that he didn't care about returning to jail, that he was ready to die, Daniel Penny, and people were still kind of not quite sure about what happened. He put Mr. Neely in a chokehold for 15 minutes, and he died. Now, the coroners have ruled his death a homicide. In other words, he was murdered, killed. The only people who, and the police have interviewed Mr. Penny, the 24-year-old veteran who also apparently has been struggling himself, maybe not mentally, but feeling unfulfilled, having dropped out of college and not having chosen the military as a career. And so he's been interviewed by the police, but not arrested by the police, although he caused a homicide, choked someone to death, 15 minutes. Now, the people who have been arrested have been the protesters who said, wait a minute, what happened to Jordan Neely was wrong. So I want to talk about this today. We've got a tremendous panel. We've got, of course, Dr. D. Dwight McKee, social scientist, attorney Aaron Connolly. We've got Reverend Jeanette Wilson, Esquire, and the former president of the National Bar Association, chair of Rainbow Push, attorney C.K. Hoffler. Let me start with you, attorney Hoffler. What are we looking at? How does the coroner find that someone has died of homicide? You know who caused the homicide. They're not arrested. Does that line up for you? Or am I missing something?
I don't think you're missing anything, Santita, and that just goes to show, and I hope that people are following these, how sometimes, in my impression, the rules are inconsistently applied. If there were any other circumstances, if Mr. Neely were not a homeless person, then I think that the outcome would have been different. Lord forbid if he had been and I say Lord forbid rhetorically, not
of course,
other way. If he had been an investment banker who was having a bad day, who was having a meltdown, or if he had been somebody who were not a black homeless person, I think the outcome would have been different. I think the outcome, and what I observed by the footage, is that, yes, you had this man who was holding him in a chokehold, which was upsetting, but you had other people. I felt like we were looking at George Floyd again. That's just me. You had other people who were also just standing around and kneeling with him, sort of on the ground there with him, trying to contain him. So it's puzzling to me that that someone hasn't been charged, since it has been deemed to have been a homicide. Multiple people could have been charged, in my impression. And it's just puzzling to me. Every state is different. And what this should highlight for all of us is, number one, every state is different. And when you don't have uniformity in the application of laws, you get different outcomes. It's going to depend on, well, if someone's homeless, people make a determination their life isn't valued that much. That's wrong, because human beings are human beings. When someone is homeless and black, people make a determination their life isn't valued as strongly as another person who's not black. That's wrong, because people are people. Clearly, there was a crime committed. The coroner said there was a crime committed. The persons who were responsible for the crime should have been charged at a minimum. See if the charges stick. I don't know why the district attorneys are not, and maybe they are. The prosecutors are looking at it this way, but they're choosing not to prosecute for some reason. And, the New York prosecutors in the various offices typically are pretty aggressive. So I'm not quite sure. There might be some evidence I'm missing, but Santita, I don't think I'm missing anything. I think that when it comes to the homeless population, people have on blinders. We have a homeless crisis. We've had a homeless crisis for years. It has reached incredible proportions throughout the country. And the cities and counties who heretofore have been responsible for providing housing, shelter, and the rest have shifted the problem so that it's really a problem that we have to deal with. And here you have someone who is known. When you take the New York subway, first of all, there's all kinds of stuff that happens. People peeing right next to you, all kinds of things. So what he was doing was actually kind of customary. I've only been on the subway once, and I said once is enough. Because what he was doing is what you see frequently. If you're not from there, you might have a visceral reaction. But these people presumably were from there. Some people said this is business as usual.
It is.
But if you put that aside, this was a crime.
Yeah.
This was a crime. And because it was a crime was because he died. He died. But even if he hadn't died, putting someone in a chokehold, I mean, that's assault and battery. But in this case, he died. And someone's life is someone's life. He's someone's child. He's someone's uncle. He's someone's godfather. He may have fallen on hard times, but he may not be contributing to society, but he is a human being. And to that extent, there should be prosecution of the law. Let a jury decide. Or they should look at the evidence and decide on prosecution, but not based on the fact that he's homeless, based on other factors, whether it's a homicide, whether the elements were met, whether the coroner do the prosecutors disagree with the coroner's findings. That does happen. And if that is the case, then that might be an explanation, Santita. But for that type of explanation, I see no reason why there has not been an arrest.
I don't understand it. Reverend Wilson, I don't get it. I mean, I really, I don't get this. The protesters have been arrested. The people who said, hey, what happened to Jordan Neely was wrong. But the man who committed the homicide, the coroner said this is a homicide. And Mr. Penny, who did it, he's been interviewed by the police, but they've left him alone. Can you help me with that?
I'm like CK Attorney Hoffler. I can't help you with it. I don't understand it. It clearly is a homicide, and unless
aren't people arrested for homicides? Is that what happens?
Typically they are, but sometimes there are racial motivations, there are cultural motivations that prevent an arrest from happening. I don't know if because one was a homeless man that was murdered, it made a difference to the prosecutors who declined to press charges, because clearly they know who did it. So it's not like they're searching for the suspect. They haven't. They know who it is. And I don't know if it's his military background somehow in the minds of law enforcement insulated him from prosecution. I don't understand it. It's rather strange.
Okay.
Because they didn't say, because you could have a self-defense argument
But in this case, there's no argument need to be made because they did not arrest and charge anyone.
Well, I mean, there was nothing to defend.
Does not a life of a homeless person matter? Because you're homeless, does that mean you have no rights that law enforcement should respect?
But you know, let me tell you something. Having lived in New York, and I lived there for a decade and a half, you don't know who's homeless on that subway. People can ride up and down that subway all night, all day. New York is it is cost prohibitive in terms of finding a place to live. So a lot of people fall in and out of being housed and unhoused, as they like to say it now. So you don't know who you're sitting next to. Some people are, have kept it together, and they are living in their offices. They're living on the subway. They're living down in the subway. I mean, it's all of that. And quite frankly, I remember when my brother Jonathan, Congressman Jackson, used to visit me in New York, because he worked there at one point, but he used to come and see me all the time. He said, "Hey, my sister, I love you. Be careful here." I said, "Okay." He said, No. I don't want you to get too used to people who act out on the subway. They're in trouble. I don't want you to become too accustomed to all these homeless people. These people are in trouble. This is not the way people are supposed to live." I'll never, ever, ever forget that. That was 30 years ago, and I'll never, ever, ever forget that. Aaron Connolly, your thoughts? Help me, because these brilliant lawyers, all of you are stumped.
Yes, this case is tragic, and when you read the details of it, hearing that there was no threat that Jordan Neely made. Really, there was no explicit threat. Yelling on the subway does not mean you're actually threatening people. It means you need attention. It means you need care. It means you need something, but it doesn't mean you're going to necessarily hurt folks, right? And while he said he didn't care if he died, that's not an invitation to murder him, okay? That is a desperate plea for your fellow man to give you some food and water and maybe some reassurance. And so when you see a response, from the facts of the case, it shows that he made this announcement to the train car, said these words, threw his jacket on the ground, and then was, run up to and put in this chokehold for what amounts to almost, 15 minutes?
15 minutes.
That's 15 minutes. Okay, so my 9-year-old does martial arts. He knows how to do a chokehold, and he knows how to get out of a chokehold, right? 15 minutes to watch another person put someone in this position for 15 minutes while he loses breath. This is no longer self-defense. This person is incapacitated. They cannot move. There are other moves that you can use to subdue someone and get them to a location that is off the train where they're not a threat. This person just did not need to die like this. And I agree with you and CK and Reverend Wilson that others who participated in this are most likely also an accomplice to this homicide, right? And the reticence of the police officers not to charge this person, not to move the process along, is a disservice to every citizen in this country who counts on this justice system. It should not matter if you're homeless. It should not matter if you're poor. It should not matter if you have many prior either charges or convictions or arrests. If you are a citizen of this country, you should be able to trust certain things. And when you are murdered in public with witnesses, and they know who your perpetrator is, and they're sitting free without an arrest, that it's a slap in the face to everyone, because it's the misapplication of the justice system is on full display, and it's insulting. It dilutes the power of the system in general, which we all know is corrupted, right? Mm-hmm. I'm not saying there's a shining light of justice in the United States that applies itself equally in really any state in this nation. But this is a troubling case to see on the national stage, and understand that it is because this young man was troubled and black and homeless that justice isn't being sought in the same way it would as you said, if it was an investment banker having a bad day, or a young man, as we see, many of the folks with weapons in this country are young white men who act out violently. Those young men come out with their weapons unharmed by police and witnesses. Yet this young man didn't get off the subway alive. So
unbelievable.
It's troubling.
I mean, Dwight McKee, help me.
Well, there's a difference between a nuisance and a threat. And this young man was clearly a nuisance, but he was not a threat. And so, I mean, when I was growing up, we had a little kid named on TV called Dennis the Menace. And Dennis was a menace, but they didn't give his neighbor the right to choke him to death because he got on people's nerves. And this is really not just criminal, it's insanity. Because it seems like the guys on the train took their frustrations out on this young man. I think they all should be charged. Well, as frustrating it was for me to see the Marine choking the young man to death. Whenever the young man would try to get relief and take his arms from around his neck, the other guy would pull his arms down. And it would then exacerbate his situation. It's very tragic that black homeless life is seen in such a way as almost like you look at insects or a mosquito in a train, that you would just swipe him and get off the train and keep walking. That you could kill a young man, walk away, the police ask you how you felt about it, you say, I feel bad about it, and they say, oh, that's all we need to hear. And they let you go on your merry way, and no real investigation or no real charges are pursued. Very sad in its reflection on how cheap they look at homeless people, poor people, people of color.
It seems that we do have a hierarchy on life, and that is our ultimate tragedy. Let me pivot over here because, we have this discussion constantly about gun violence. And I've always tried to move it over to violence because two of the most, we have had more than 200 mass shootings in the United States. We've only had 128 days. But now you have a man who uses his car to plow into migrants, and he kills them. You have a Marine veteran who was clearly struggling in his own life, who choked someone to death. A gun is not the only way that we kill people, Dwight. But I am really disturbed by, as we dehumanize migrants, even though I heard the president say in an interview a couple of days ago, he just said it in passing, Aaron. He said it in passing, DK. He said it in Reverend Wilson. We need our farm workers. A corporate decision has been made to bring these people into the United States because we don't have to pay them much. Just like a corporate decision was made several hundred years ago to bring Africans in here so that we would not have to pay them anything. There is a connection. And the only way that we can just kill people without thinking about it is because we dehumanize them, Dwight. How do you take your car? And according to news reports, this driver has been most uncooperative. The person who plowed his car he killed 8 people. He injured 10. He just took his car and just drove it. Who does that, Dwight?
People who have disdain and contempt for other people and see other people as really inhuman. The Bible talks about you kill somebody and think you're doing God a favor. I mean, the people have been demonized already by the last president, by media, by custom. You see these people as less than, in the way, and assault on your lifestyle, on your jobs. like I said, a nuisance. And you have a right, because of who you are and who you see yourself, to get them out of your way, to get them off the planet. You're really doing society a favor by getting these people off of the planet. And then the law or the governor co-signs it, because they treat the migrants that way. They treat the migrants as if they're not human, as if they have no rights, they have no humanity, and so you can take your cues from them. You hear the president call these people rapists and criminals and killers and muggers, and the president of the United States now. And so you say, well, if he's the man in charge and that's how he feels about them, then why wouldn't I feel that way about them? You know, I have a divine right to take these people off the planet for the protection of and safety of my neighbors and myself.
Well, let me respond to Effie Rolfe. She said, "Good morning, Santita. Love you, Effie." Legend in the world of radio. She said the guy that drove into people, killing 7, now 8, was Hispanic, and Clarence Thomas is black. You can internalize hatred for your own. And although we are all our own, but I mean, I am just, Aaron, I want you to speak to that when we get on the other side, and everybody, because I'm trying to figure out how this can happen. And no one, I mean, this is like a second-tier story. We want to focus on the gun violence instead of the violence that is in the culture, Reverend Wilson, Attorney C.K. Hoffler. Remember, lynching was an after-church activity, everybody. You don't just need a gun to kill folks. We have 2 shining examples of that right now. I hope you'll join us at the Rainbow Push International Conference, July 15th through the 19th. We'll be having conversations like these at that convention. I want you to go to rainbowpush.org, and get registered, get involved, everybody, and let us know what you want to talk about at the convention. Tonight, I will be with Congressman Jonathan Jackson at 5:30. The event goes from 6 to 8. It's his town hall meeting. It's at the IBEW Local 34 Hall at 27th and King Drive. Come on out there, everybody, and ask him, hold him accountable. Ask him what he's doing. Ask him about his first 100 days. I told you, voting is the end of the beginning, not the beginning of the end. Now is the time you need to start telling him what you want him to take back to his colleagues in Washington. That's the only way it'll happen, everybody. Back with more of the Santita Jackson Show in just a few minutes. CK and Jeanette and Aaron and Dwight, the man who plowed into these people, he has been most uncooperative. I mean, he will not cooperate with the police. What is that? How does he feel he has the right not to cooperate with the police?
Took his car and drove through a parade, showing he injured maybe 68 people, killed 8 or 9 people. It was absolutely tragic. Most of them were seniors. Most of the people that he killed were seniors. And when I covered the trial, he was someone who was deranged. In some respects, he had challenges, but he chose to represent himself, so he went pro se. And the people who testified on his behalf were his mother, his grandmother, and said that he had some psychiatric challenges, by the way, from a fairly, his grandfather and mother. These were people who were educated people. And so he was not someone who fit a stereotype, if you will, of someone driving through a crowd in a parade and killing and injuring so many. So his family pointed to mental illness. The problem with that was he represented himself. And he was completely disruptive in the courtroom on the one hand, but on the other hand, he presented some very, very strong arguments for himself. The only point that I'm making is this happened, whether the person is African American or Latino. It should not. We should not make excuses for people based on their race. I mean, if you kill 8 people in a parade, driving through a parade, just take your car and drive. That is it. You should be held accountable for killing 8 people, and don't get a pass for killing 8 people. And you shouldn't get a pass for choking someone to death. Shouldn't get a pass.
But it seems like this guy has gotten a pass.
Well, he has thus far gotten a pass. And we do appreciate his military service. We do. But that has nothing to do with the crime that he committed. There's not going to be a dispute. Now, he may have some great defenses. Don't get me wrong, and that's why we're in this system. There might be some great defenses, I don't know a justification, but some defenses that he may have that the system affords him to have. I felt like I was watching the George Floyd murder again. So that's how it struck me when I saw the footage. When I saw the picture, I saw people standing there. The only difference is in George Floyd, there were police officers. Here, they were not police officers. That's what I saw when I looked at this on the subway. It's just tragic, and I think that we have to address these types of issues. We really have to address them.
Well, I think one of the things that we watched, people sat there throughout this entire 15-minute ordeal and did nothing. Maybe they took a video of it, but they did not try to stop him. They didn't move. And somehow we have adjusted to this kind of behavior. As long as they don't bother me, I don't bother them. You know, they just sit in silence, and silence gives consent to this kind of behavior. And I understand, you know, people, I don't want to be bothered. I don't want to engage myself. They did nothing. The train had to stop at certain stops, and people just coming and going and not dealing with the fact that this guy is murdering someone before their very eyes. As it relates to the person that drove into the crowd, I think that we have dehumanized homeless people, the media, and the entertainment industry and social media. We've dehumanized people that are homeless. We've dehumanized migrants. To use the word migrant as if these are not real people who come from different countries, who come to America for various reasons, seeking safety, seeking an opportunity, seeking health care for their children, all kinds of reasons.
Wait.
But we call
Hold
them...
on. Wait a minute. Let me just interrupt. At corporate America's invitation, the president just mentioned, it was almost like a throwaway line. He said, we need our farm workers. He was referring to immigrants, to migrants. Wait. Because I said, well, that took me back 200-300 years. Oh, we need some folks to deal with this land. I mean, it's the same thing.
But that's my point. We're not just, you know, we act like these are some just really crazy people that are coming to take over our country. No, some are coming by invitation. As the president said, we need farm workers. We need hotel workers. These hotels are understaffed, overwhelmed since COVID. Many people have shifted from these jobs because they were working unusual hours, days, times for less than minimum wages. So now you have to have a new slave system. The prisons are one part of it, and migrants, people coming in, immigrants coming into our borders, another group. Because you can pay them little or nothing, work them as if they are slaves, and not have to worry about it. And so we have to look at how this media has projected images of this is your enemy. They give you signs of the enemy, which is what Hitler did when he took over Nazi Germany. I mean...
60 seconds, everyone.
Oh, wow. Dwight, were you going to say something? I got 30 seconds.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, I got 30 seconds. You all say it quickly.
Well, I just want to remind everybody that Tyler Perry used to be homeless. Yeah. And during COVID, there were a bunch of many, and I know this because I made it I helped try to help
10
him
seconds, CK. You know what? Why don't you remind people of that when we get on the other side? Remind people of that.
Okay.
Because he just did a wonderful interview about that. A lot of folks are almost homeless.
And Chris,
stand by. We're
you
coming
remember
up.
the guy,
No, hold on,
rich
hold
guy
on, hold on.
Chris?
Baby, we're coming up. We're coming up. We're coming up.
Ten seconds.
Okay.
We can change the world. Change the world. We can change the world. We can change the world. Change the world.
This is the Santita Jackson Show.
War and hate to a place of love. It's not too late. Gotta save the children. We can't wait. Let's change the world. I am breathing.
Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the Santita Jackson Show. I hope to see you tonight at the Congressman Jonathan Jackson Town Hall meeting from 6 to 8 p.m. at 27th and King Drive. I'm Santita Jackson, coming to you from WCPT 820, the nation's largest progressive talk radio station, and AM 950 radio, the voice of progressive Minnesota. Got a movie I want you to go on and see at the Illinois Holocaust Museum. We'll be talking about that at the end of the show. But let's talk about what happened with Jordan Neely in New York. We've been talking about that. Let's talk about these 8 migrants who were killed. At least 10 were injured. Someone just plowed into the car, and he's been uncooperative. Jordan Neely, the coroner said he was killed by homicide, and we know who did it. Mr. Penny, Daniel Penny, who is a 24-year-old veteran, and somehow or another he's not been arrested. But the protesters who feel that this man was unjustly killed, they've been arrested. So we got to talk about this, everybody. Got to talk about it. Even as we look at yet another mass shooting in Texas. What's going on in the United States, in particular in Texas, but something's going on here, everybody. We've had more than 200 mass shootings. We've only had 128 days in the year. What is up? Call me at 773-763-9278. And not just the guns, it's us too. Remember, lynching was an after-church activity. You don't need a gun to kill people. You need a mind to kill people. So let's talk about this on the Santita Jackson Show at 773-763-9278, 773-763-WCPT. Want to hear from you today. Want to see you tonight at the Jackson Town Hall meeting from 6 to 8 p.m. at the IBEW Local 34 Union Hall at 27th and King Drive, July 15th through the 19th, the Rainbow Push Convention. Want to see you there as well. Go to rainbowpush.org, get registered, or call us at 773-FREEDOM. It's after 9 o'clock today, and get involved, everybody. Let's get to some of these headlines on the Santita Jackson Show. 8 people were killed, and at least 7 others were wounded when a gunman opened fire at an outlet mall this weekend on Saturday in Allen, Texas, the latest mass shooting to shatter an American community. A Dallas area medical group said it was treating patients ranging from the age of 5 to 61 years of age. The 33-year-old shooter was killed by a police officer who was already at the mall near Dallas on an unrelated call. The gunman was armed with an AR-15 style rifle and had multiple weapons in his vehicle. The shooter's motive remains unclear, but officials are investigating his potential ties to right-wing extremists, everybody. Britain's King Charles III was crowned Saturday in a once-in-a-generation royal event witnessed by hundreds of in-person high-profile guests inside Westminster Abbey, including our First Lady, Jill Biden, as well as tens of thousands of well-wishers who gathered in central London. Scores of foreign dignitaries, British officials, celebrities, and faith leaders attended the deeply religious ceremony. Indeed, he was anointed with oil from the Mount of Olives in Jerusalem, everybody. And remember, this is the largest landowner on earth. It's not a benign figure. This is someone. They announced a Great Reset. The World Economic Forum announced a Great Reset. In fact, he announced it on his Twitter feed. Something to think about. The U.S. is expecting to see an influx of border crossings when Title 42, the Trump-era policy that allowed officials to swiftly expel migrants who cross the border illegally during the COVID-19 pandemic, expires on Thursday. A child in Maine has tested positive for measles, according to officials, marking the first case in the state since 2019. Measles was declared eliminated from the U.S. in 2000 thanks to an intensive vaccination program, according to the CDC. But vaccination rates in the U.S. are down. And those are just some of the headlines on the Santita Jackson Show. I'm going to throw an idea at your way, CK. You know, we have your segment. They're calling it corruption, plain and simple. Jenny Thomas took secret payments ahead of a landmark voting rights case. I want to know, well, you know, and let's just hold this for Wednesday, or maybe even tomorrow. With all of these cases that these Supreme Court justices took payments for, I'm wondering if we should not only impeach them, but review the cases. But let's hold that for a couple more days. We're talking about killing these migrants, killing these people. They're not migrants, they're human beings. Whether they're citizens or not, they're human beings. And President Biden, for his portion, in an interview a couple of days ago, said, look, you know, they're human beings, and we need our farm workers. Boom. Remember, after Hurricane Katrina, Dwight McKee, attorney C.K. Hoffler, Reverend Jeanette Wilson Esquire, and attorney Aaron Connolly. Remember, Aaron, the Department of Labor relaxed the rules that allowed migrants from Central and South America to come here to rebuild the Gulf region. They didn't even let the people who lived in the Gulf region stay and rebuild their homes. So what are we to make of this? What are we to make of what we're seeing with someone who just plowed his car into all of these people and just killed them? Well, he meant to kill them. You don't need a gun to kill people. You need a mind to kill people.
Well, you just can't just blame him, though.
No, I'm not just blaming him. But very quickly, Dwight, and then, of course, Aaron.
You just can't blame a Marine because society gives him mixed signals. They train him to kill. They send him overseas and give him medals when he kills. So when he gets over here and he kills, then there is ambiguity about what to do with him. And I'm sure that it confuses him because he's spent the last 4 years training how to kill.
Well, then,
and he was sent overseas for the purposes of killing.
Well, then let's flip it to
so society gives you mixed messages.
No question.
About the value of life and whose life is significant and whose life is not significant.
Well, Aaron, speaking to that point, you know, we have someone who just took his car, his Range Rover, and decided to plow into migrants who are not supposed to be here. You know, we have a hierarchy on life, and they're at the bottom of the pile. Aaron, you still there?
Well,
yeah,
and this goes to the general violent rage that we feel from folks, the fear response that many of our citizens are reacting to from some of these high-profile incidents where if you ring a doorbell or pull in the wrong driveway or make the tiniest mistake or say the wrong thing on the subway or simply exist as a brown person trying to file for asylum and, frankly, pick the food of this nation. Okay? To your point, Santita, we and our corporate overlords need low-wage, skilled workers. Have you seen what these folks do on these farms?
We did it.
Take me.
Yes, we did it.
Yeah, and we have as well, right? If you have worked on a farm in a field and understand what goes into this process, this is not unskilled labor. This is delicate, detailed, hard, like back-breaking work that Americans don't want to do. We don't want to do this work. We do need our farm workers, and we should treat them with respect and dignity and provide them a wage, and certainly not create a media environment that attacks them for doing what we're inviting them to do. And many of these folks are filing for legal asylum, okay? Legal asylum. They're fleeing dangerous, life-threatening situations in their home country, and then coming to the United States, these folks who are working on these farms, most of them are taxpayers. They have families, and we see them dehumanized, as we saw the governor of Texas do when there were undocumented immigrants as part of the gun violence we saw last week in Texas, right? So we see this pattern. This is nothing new. This creates an environment where, as you said, whether you are homeless, whether you are an immigrant, a migrant, whatever your status is, it does not matter to me. You should be welcome here and safe, and be able to count on, if something happens to you, if you are hurt, that the laws of the United States, that the Constitution at least provides you some justice, some response. If your family member is run down by a madman and using his vehicle as a weapon simply because you are here existing, right? So this is a pattern of rage in our society that is part of our mental health crisis, that is we see in our younger generation, that is proven through some of these terrible statistics of how folks feel depressed or suicidal. It's at record numbers in young people. This is a response to the isolation and the realities we saw in COVID. This is a response to our healthcare system that is not functioning and is not affordable for most folks. Even if you want to seek mental health care, people have barriers to navigating it, right? Getting an appointment, filling out paperwork. If you are in dire need of health care, even filling out those forms and talking to another person to make an appointment can seem like an insurmountable task if you're having a mental health crisis, right? And there are many folks in this country in crisis. And we need leadership to stand up and provide an example that doesn't continue to double down on the dangerous rhetoric that we see out of leaders in Florida and Texas who continue to send these migrant families. They tell them they're going somewhere else and they end up in Chicago. And our communities are rallying to support these families and treat them like the human beings that they are. But we need leadership that does the same. This is a pattern, and it's very dangerous, and we saw the results here with this terrible attack on these folks.
But it's a pattern that goes back hundreds of years, and it didn't start with racialized slavery in the United States. Absolutely, I agree with you, Aaron. But this is people want to work, but they want their work respected, Reverend Wilson. This work is backbreaking work. It is delicate work. It is respected. It is work that is not respected. And you can see that it's not respected because people are not paid a fair wage, a livable wage, a wage that will enable them to stay out of poverty. Reverend Wilson.
Well, I think we have, and you've talked about this on previous programs, we have downgraded certain jobs as if they are not relevant to our very lives and our own sustainability. I come from a farming background. My grandfathers, both of them, were farmers. We ate the food that they grew and the animals that they raised. And we don't think in America today about the value of farmers, the fresh fruits and vegetables. I saw today tomatoes are going to increase in price because of the weather, the impact the weather has had on them in California. So all of the tomato paste, the tomato sauces, the stewed tomatoes that we go to the store and buy in a can, they come from tomatoes that are grown in the land. And we don't pay farmers like we used to. We don't value the products that they produce, yet we need them to eat. All of our restaurants, all of our fast food places are built on the farming culture. And so agriculture is very important, and yet those farms are not small family farmers. When your father ran for president in 1984, we had the small family farmers came to push and asked him to support them because they were not getting the money. They were being overshadowed by these big conglomerates. And so America now imports more than it exports in terms of food substances. We have downgraded the trades. We don't value the people that build our houses, repair our property, build our school buildings, maintain them. I asked a young man who was released from prison, who's one of the exonerees, not guilty, who cannot get a job, our major assistance, because he has an X on his back, even though he served the time and was found to be innocent. He's fighting for his certificate of innocence. So I said, well, what job did you do while you were behind bars? And when he outlined every trade that he knew and learned, he was in jail 25 years. Riddle me why he does not have a union card, why he does not have a union job. I mean, it's just, and anybody that has been in a system where you've been a carpenter, you've been an electrician, you ought to be certified when you come out. That's why they have a recidivism. You know, keep going back in because you can't work out here because we don't value them. We have this system of power for a few, and the masses are just supposed to wander the streets. Well, nobody's going to do that. And that's why you had a homeless man on the L. His only source of income was performing on the L because he probably couldn't get a job in the entertainment industry legitimately. They wouldn't hire him because, you know, this is a fool. He couldn't get a job in Disney, at Disneyland, Disney World, because he didn't fit whatever profile they're making up. We're not making everything available to everyone. We are limiting resources to a few on the top. And every time, and we have to have a whole show on Clarence Thomas and the rest of those Supreme Court justices.
Cool, we've been having we'll have another one.
Oh, no, we got to do some more.
No, we'll have another.
We got to talk about how do we regulate the United States Supreme Court, and term limits must be in the discussion.
Oh, we have
a lifetime appointment to rip us off. I'm sorry.
We know we've been talking about that. Trust and believe. I mean, Attorney C.K. Hoffler.
I know.
I mean, just what? I mean, what is our takeaway here? I mean, because this is just. We see you don't need a gun to kill anybody, right? And I think, Dwight, you make the brilliant point that, you know, you train someone to kill, and you can't turn that off. That's what, you know, I've had Matthew Ho on this show, who said, wait a minute, there's something called moral injury. Moral injury. When you teach someone to kill, you undo something. That is why, you know, Mother's Day was actually Mother's Day for Peace, because these were pacifists. Julia Ward Howe said, wait a minute, I'm not going to send my child to war to unlearn all of the Christian values I've instilled in him. I'm not going to let you do it. She put that in her poem. So now at some point, whether you adhere to Christianity, Judaism, Buddhism, Islam, whatever it is, no one teaches you that it's okay to kill. It's not. CK.
You know, Santita, I mean, I want to address all those issues together. Firstly, let's remember that Tyler Perry was home, number one. Number two, let's remember that during COVID, there were many college students that were homeless, law students included, because when they had to go home, many of them didn't have a home to go to. Their dorms were their homes. And they couldn't study for the bar. So the National Bar Association, I was president, we arranged a program with hotels in urban areas where they would let these law students come into the hotel, use their internet in the business center so they could study for the bar. So you don't know who's homeless. Someone made that point earlier. And certainly a bunch of law students and college students during COVID were homeless. Homeless. If you've ever lived in someone's house on a couch, it's because you were homeless. Let's just put it that way. So a lot of people have had a bout with homelessness. We just call it something different. I was finding myself. I was transitioning. You were homeless. So I think, number one, greater sensitivity to the homeless population. Homeless people are people, too, and their lives value as much as anyone's life. That's number one. We understand that people don't feel that Black lives matter or are valued, and that's at the core of it. The second thing, Santita, with these shootings, we are in a situation where people feel very comfortable. You can get a gun anywhere, no matter what age you are, and it has now become acceptable to take out your frustration through shooting, mass shooting. If you're having a bad day, just shoot your way out of it. This has become a pandemic in and of itself, and I think that if there is not greater discretion with action, coupled with action, talking to our congressmen and our senators. You know, you've got congressmen who are very, very progressive thinking and who understand the problem, like Congressman Jonathan Jackson, Talk to him about this issue. What can Congress do? And then finally, this whole issue with the justices of the U.S. Supreme Court, a whole nother show that they must be held accountable. I'm an officer of the court. Like, each one of them is an officer of the court just like I am. I wish I would do some of the things. I would have no bar license. There are ethics, there are professionalism rules that govern each one of these justices. They should, but they are not held accountable. So we have to completely, much like other systems that we must revamp, we have to revamp what accountability is we're holding these U.S. Supreme Court justices to. What is the accountability, and how can we enforce it?
Amen to that, everybody. I want you to call me at 773-763-9278. Larry from the South Side, what's on your mind, sweetie?
Good morning, Santita.
Good morning.
I would just like to know why we aren't covering while we're busy lauding the coronation of King Charles, while we're not exposing the throne sitting on tens of thousands of enslaved Africans and reparations that Britain as well as the United States owe Africans in the world.
Well, I think you need to call these media companies and ask them why. And if I can make this recommendation to you, Larry, get a group of friends who will ask the same question. Because each person who sends an email or makes a phone call, they calculate that you represent X number of viewers or listeners. And when you do that, the powers that be will pay attention. I promise you they will. So please do that. Make your voice heard. Because I hear you, but you got to do your work too. And your work has to be doing this. You must hold these corporate mouthpieces, these corporate media accountable. Call me at 773-763-9278, Gregory and Chaparral. I hear you. I'm going to come to you on the other side, and then we're going to be talking about this incredible new film that is going to be shown at the Illinois Holocaust Museum, Stranger at the Gate. It was nominated for an Academy Award, and Malala is one of the producers of this movie, and it's a fantastic movie. It's about, well, we're going to talk with the director of the film so that you can find out how someone lost their way combating all of these phobias, Islamophobia, homophobia, everything, and then went to hurt some people in the Islamic community, and he then became part of the Islamic community. You can't make this stuff up. God has a way of working all of this out. This Marine, Mac McKinney, suffering from PTSD, decided to bomb the mosque in his hometown. But when he arrived there, he was embraced in love and ended up becoming a Muslim and became president of the mosque. Only God. But let's take your calls as we talk about all of this violence in America on the Santita Jackson Show, July 15th through the 19th, the Rainbow Push Conference. I hope you will be there. And tonight from 6 to 8, I will be with Congressman Jonathan Jackson, interviewing him, along with others, as he talks about his first 100 days. What has he seen? What do you want him to do? What questions do you have? IBEW Local 34 Hall at 27th and King Drive. I'll see you there at 6 o'clock. Back with more of the Santita Jackson Show in just a minute. All right, you all keep talking. We're going to do this until about 7:46. All right. Are you all still there? We're on Facebook Live. You all can talk. And Ms. Robinson said, that's right, CK. A lot of college students were homeless. They sure were.
And they still are homeless.
Yeah, they are.
I mean, it's a real issue, homelessness in America, and that is what is driving, in part, so much of the hostility against migrants, because they're in the same position in one sense. They're in the same country, same city as migrants who are being shipped to these multiple cities, particularly where we have African-American mayors, and you're providing screening and shelter for migrants that you're not providing for homeless homeless population that lives with you each and every day.
But you know
And
what?
so
It's a
that
false
was
choice. You know, I think, we can't do,
It is. Both
can't do war and give the
but
Pentagon.
what I'm saying is these politicians are deciding arbitrarily in many ways what they're going to do for one and not for the other.
No, I'm
and
agreeing
it
with you.
Unnecessary.
I'm agreeing. I'm just saying. I'm saying what they're saying is it's a false choice, because what they do is also give carte blanche to the defense industry. And it's not even defense, to the military. And the fact is, you cannot do war and build your society at the same time. You can't. And this is where we have to go up in our politics, Jeanette, and start questioning them. How can you set a budget for the Pentagon, and then we give them extra money? I don't understand that.
Absolutely. And you sit up and try to vote to cut services and resources to the people that live within your borders who are not your enemy combatants. These are people every day, and children, many of them, who need basic resources.
And neither of these migrants, because President Biden just said, as a toss-off in this interview, he said, you know what? We need our farm workers, just like they needed us 200, 300, 400 years ago, black people. We need you to do the work. So, you remember the Department of Labor relaxed their rules so that they could bring in people from Central and South America to rebuild the Gulf. They didn't even let the people they kicked out stay behind and rebuild their own towns and townships. They wouldn't let them do it. We are bringing these people over here, not with the slave ship. Now they're just walking over, because they're Americans too. It's just South and Central Americans.
Mm-hmm.
We have not gangstered the term American, everybody. These are all Americans. They're just from South and Central America. And as a matter of fact, many of them are really from here.
60 seconds.
We just kicked them back. But when we decided to take New Mexico and Arizona and California and Mississippi and on and on and on. Come on, everybody. You need to get clear on your history. This is ridiculous. I'm going to go to some of these callers, and you all can respond to them. And then I'm going to bring on my last guest. Hope to see you all at Jonathan Jackson's event tonight.
Hey, Santita?
Yes.
You know something that came to mind? We're talking about migrant workers.
Okay. Talk quickly.
In Georgia, they said the same thing. Okay, they passed this law that restricted immigration, and when the farmers started complaining because nobody would do their work, they reversed it. That was many years ago.
Mm-hmm. It's just ridiculous.
10 seconds.
The farms are suffering. Nobody else is going to do the work.
And they are suffering from lack of workers.
Black people, they want to pay fairly. I mean, come on. It's ridiculous.
We can change the world, change the world, change the world. We can change the world, we can change the world, change the world.
This is the Santita Jackson Show.
War and hate to a place of love, it's not too late. Gotta save the children, we can't wait. Let's change the world.
Everybody, mowing down these migrant workers is just awful. It's just evil. It is. Santita Jackson on WCPT 820, the nation's largest progressive talk radio station, and AM 950 Radio, the voice of progressive Minnesota. I am like the news nerd, and I try to listen to everything from many different perspectives. I listen to it all, because somewhere between all of it, I can catch a little something that gives me some kernels of truth. President Biden, in an interview just a couple of days ago, said, you know what, we need our farm workers. This is a corporate decision to bring these people into the United States. Don't be fooled. They're not just showing up here unbidden. We have said we need them here. And have we adequately fed the people in the United States? No. We let go of the war on poverty and the creation of the Great Society 60 years ago because we wanted to feed a war in Vietnam that we lost. And we keep losing these wars. We have not won anything since the Second World War. We haven't won Korea. We have an armistice agreement with them. We do not have a peace treaty. We are not winning. Afghanistan told us to get out. We said, no, might need another month. So they said, no, you have August 31st. And if you don't get out here by August 31st, that's going to be a problem. Larry from the south side. Oh, did I get Larry? I think Gregory. How you doing, Gregory?
Good morning, Ms. Jackson. I worked as a migrant farm worker in upstate New York picking apples before my license to become a substitute public school teacher in New York was finalized. I didn't do it very long because I was called down to start teaching and subbing in the public school system. But everything is a skilled job. Master it, and
absolutely,
I think fruit and vegetables would rot in the fields if you didn't have skilled migrant workers, because it took me all day to try to fill one of those big giant square bins with the apples, climbing up the tree with the ladder, and oh my gosh, it was so hard. I got to 2/3 of a bin in one full day of apple picking, but the Jamaican brother was all over it. He was 2 and 3 full giant boxes. Anyway, I just wanted to share that. And
thank you for acknowledging their skill and how you had to lose that job. Thank you, so I can eat. Thank you for moving over, Gregory.
And I witnessed a homicide where someone was strangling another person, and the mainstream media, and I spoke to the detectives and the prosecutor and the grand jury about it, and the brother went to jail for, it was a domestic dispute, fight, crime of passion, and he went to jail for that. But the mainstream media reported it initially as the homeless performer, Keeley, what was his name?
Jordan Neely. Jordan Neely. The man who killed him was Daniel Penny. Mm-hmm.
Yes, ma'am. The Jordan Neely was the Michael Jackson impersonator who was homeless and beloved apparently by the New York street community, public community. He was throwing things and threatening people, and maybe someone might have thought he might have pushed someone off onto the platform if he had been kicked off the train, and he was just so out of control that he needed to be subdued. And there were several people helping, and looked like there was an African American in the mix there. And they said he was strangled for 3 minutes.
No,
but
15.
now you're telling me
15.
It's a full 15, so that explains why the public is so outraged. Now we need a jury, obviously, and a grand jury to look at all the facts and then to go ahead and bring charges. And I'll just leave you with a question, because I did go to law school, and you're a guest. Is there different kinds of manslaughter? Because it is second-degree manslaughter. I guess it's not first-degree murder. It's some type of manslaughter. Okay, thank you very much.
Okay, I mean, well, you know what? What about just very quickly before I get the last caller and before I have to let you all go.
Look, Santita, you don't have to have gone to law school. We saw what we saw. We know what we saw. We saw what we saw, and that's it. And whether it's manslaughter, they need to charge with something. They need to do something. Someone was killed. So they need to charge this assailant with something. And that's the point. Well, the degree, the gradation of the charge, that's a different issue. But something.
I don't know how that happens, how the coroner says it was homicide and no one gets charged, but the protesters get charged. Chaparral, what's on your mind?
Good morning, Santita. And I just want to address, the anger in the community. I'm not justifying any of it because, I work with a lot of illegal immigrants, and, some of them are my best friends. So, but we have to address the anger, because Americans are angry that illegal immigrants are getting more benefits than U.S. citizens. And just last week in Chicago, they had this big town hall about housing taking some of these empty schools, high schools in Chicago, and making them livable spaces for illegal immigrants coming from Ukraine, as well as also Mexico and South America. However, we have a huge homeless population in Chicago who will not receive any of these benefits. You know, sometimes I foster children, and the money that they give me for the kids is 3 times less than they give you if you take a child from Ukraine. Mm-hmm. So this is what's breeding all of the anger and the disenchantment with illegal immigrants coming to America, because it's unfair that you're giving all of the benefits to those who are not even U.S. citizens. But when we as U.S. citizens ask for help and assistance, now we're all of a sudden, we're welfare cases, we're bums, we're this, we're all of it.
But Chaparral, I think we're angry with the wrong people and entities. I kept telling you, it's a corporate, what I'm saying is it's a corporate decision. Corporations, America's business is business. That's why we're here. Black people were brought here on a business proposition, period. That's it. Happening here. The president said, we need our farm workers. He's speaking for the business community. And it's a false choice. We can't do war, and we can't do war and build people at the same time. It just can't happen. So should we care for the homeless who are homegrown? Yeah, absolutely. But you know, we are giving Ukraine more money because they are European. And we're demonizing brown people and black people who come here as immigrants because they are brown and they are black, even though the corporations are the ones who are bringing them here, who are luring them here. Dwight, I think you're about to say something.
Everybody in America is an illegal immigrant.
Everyone.
Everybody. If you're not a native, everybody here. The difference is that there's a delineation of who has value and who does not have value as an immigrant. And so we glorify Europeans who come over here as immigrants, legal or illegal. And we demonize other people of color who comes here as immigrants. And what it's about is which race of people are going to be dominant and going to be in charge. So it really has more to do with racial superiority than it does anything else. And the reason that we demonize people of color who come here is very basic. They're people of color. And in America, color is preeminent. Color determines your human value. The way the country was set up for the purposes of justifying slavery and humanity. You have to remember now, there was a time that before baseball was the national pastime was lynching. And on Sundays, the people got together and dressed up and bought sandwiches and had what they call a picnic. Picnic meant a picnic.
That's it. Got it. We got it. Can't use that word on the air. But you know that's what it was.
That's why I said picnic. Mm-hmm. And we got a game that comes out of it called Eeny, Meeny, Miny, Mo. Catch a nig by the toe. If he hollers, let him go. Eeny, Meeny, Miny, Mo. It was the national pastime. And people, they have pictures of it and of people having parties.
With their children on their shoulders. Wait, with their babies on their shoulders. Because you must see this. What? I mean, I hear you. We've been fighting to eliminate poverty all of my life. It's a fight that I was born into, Chaparral. I hear you. But we're not the ones who stopped the war on poverty. That was a corporate decision, and that was the decision from the Johnson White House and the military-industrial complexes. They wanted to shovel more money into Vietnam so they could make more money as military contractors. That's what happened. I'm saying the anger is misdirected because we still have not figured out the game, and that is shameful. You need to go have a picket line around some of these corporations. I won't call any names that are making all the money off the war.
Santita, I will say this to Chappelle's point.
Okay, got 1 minute.
Because, for a living, I pick a jury. And I picked a jury, and I had a client who had come over as an illegal immigrant, became a U.S. citizen ultimately. And because we were in a place where I had to ask that question, I asked how many jurors felt some kind of way, one way or the other, about people who come over here illegally and who ultimately become citizens. And there was one guy that said, those people, he talked about those people. He talked about it so much that I kind of thought he was talking about me. But anyway, he talked about those people coming over and, taking jobs, and it's not fair, and how Americans feel and all that. And I listened, I encouraged him to talk, and then I asked, how many other people feel that way? Which is what you do when you want to get people off your jury, your venire. And hands shot up like wildfire.
Absolutely.
And this was in Gwinnett County in Georgia. So this is something that is on people's minds. They really feel this way, through and through, thick and thin. And there are people of color who feel this way too. Americans who are born here who feel this way too. So I think that it's an issue, whether it's misdirected or not, it's an issue that we have to address.
Oh, I agree. I'm just saying, let's put all the facts out on the table so we can know, because I think the anger is misdirected. If you don't look, when the president says we need our farm workers, that's loaded. Because that's corporations. Everyone knows that the president speaks for the corporations. And corporate farms outnumber the family farms. All of that. Maybe that's another conversation we need to have, Chappelle. And I'm not mad. I'm here for it. And I want you to be in on that. Because I'm pulling for the community too. I've given my whole life over to it. My whole life.
Well, I think we really need.
I've got 30 seconds. I got to make a shift because there is a movie that I want everyone to see. 30 seconds for you. I mean 30. Reverend Wilson.
I just think it's the optics of what.
Okay, Chappelle, very quickly. Chappelle?
I just think it's the optics. I think it's the optics of what's happening and what people are seeing.
Mm-hmm.
It's not filtering down to the average American that it's the corporations
that. And you know what? You know what filters out to the average American? That we are the welfare queens. No one says that. No one says that to all of these big corporations that were led through the pandemic. I get the optics. But part of what we try to do on this show is help you to see, but it needs to be one, because I got to shift. Make a big point.
I think we just need to have a whole show about agriculture and the impact it has on the American economy and how it has changed over the years.
All right. We can do all of that. And Chappelle, I'll work with you on this. And Reverend Wilson and Aaron and Dwight and everybody. We will work on this issue. But I want you all to see this movie. Stranger at the Gate. Stranger at the Gate. It's going to be at the Illinois Holocaust Museum tomorrow night and at the Wayfarer Theaters on Wednesday. The reason I want you to see it is because of it's kind of coming out of Reverend Wilson. It's kind of coming out of this conversation we have today. The optics, as Chappelle just said. There was a Marine veteran, and this is a true story, who decided, because of what he had seen and because of what he had been told, the bill of goods that he had been sold, that he was going to shoot up a mosque and kill everybody. Somehow or another, he ended up becoming president of the mosque. There's a whole story in between that. And Malala is one of the producers of this movie, but we want to pay special attention to the director of this movie. Joshua Seftel, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Santita. It's great to be here.
Thank you for being with us. As you can hear, we're looking at optics, and there's so many of these issues, so much misunderstanding can guide us into tragedy. Tell us about this movie. Give us the plot.
Sure. So, the story starts in Muncie, Indiana in 2009. A Marine named Mac McKinney comes back from serving abroad. He has a wife and an 8-year-old daughter, and he is filled with rage. He has PTSD. He's been serving abroad for 25 years, all kinds of conflicts that he's seen. And he comes back and he starts to see Muslim people around his town. And in his mind, they're the same people he was fighting abroad. So he decides that he's going to build a bomb, which he does. He builds a bomb, and he's planning to blow up the mosque on a Friday during services. So as he's planning to do this, his 8-year-old daughter, who is, goes to public school, has a friend who's Muslim. And when Mac McKinney learns about this and he hears that his daughter's friend's mother wears hijab or wears a burqa, Mac freaks out on his 8-year-old. He starts screaming at her and saying, like, well, how can you be friends with this kid? And the 8-year-old daughter looks at him like he's crazy because she's pure. And he senses that. He looks into her eyes and he says, I cannot afford to lose the love of my daughter. And so he decides that he's going to go to the mosque and scope it out and find proof, as he says. He calls it searching for proof that what I'm doing is right. And so he goes over to the mosque and he's actually scared. Now, Mac is a big guy. Mac is like, covered in tattoos and burly. He used to be an ultimate fighter, cage matches and stuff like that. Scary guy. And he shows up at the mosque. And this is when he comes face to face with the congregants of the mosque. Now, the first person he meets is a guy named Jomo Williams, who's an African-American convert and member of the mosque who's there studying. And Jomo welcomes him in. Jomo looks at him and says, this guy's something not right with this guy, but, I'm going to show him kindness and love. And then Mac meets the other members of the mosque, the founders of the mosque, Bibi Barami and Sabir Barami, who are a married couple. Sabir is a doctor, Bibi is an activist. They're both Afghan refugees who came to this country in the 80s. And they are kind to him, and they show him compassion. And in fact, Sabir, when he sees Mac, Sabir gets down on his knees and hugs Mac's legs. This is the first time they met him. This guy is coming over there to scope it out so he can bomb the mosque. And they meet him with all this love and kindness. And, Mac was confused because this is not how he thought things were going to go. He was expecting them to be bad people, that he was going to find clues, that they were maybe up to some kind of terrorist activity. And it turns out they're just Americans living their lives and trying to do good. And so Mac comes back the next day and the day after, and he starts hanging out there. And he starts to become friends with them. And after 8 weeks, he tells them that he wants to convert. And they say, no, that's too fast, take your time. And he says, no, I'm ready. I want to do it. So he converts. And a few months later, he becomes the president of the mosque. Now, they still don't know that he was planning to kill them. So, so what happens is some rumors get out that he was. And so Bibi Barami, the wife of Sabir, and they're the co-founders, the Afghan refugees, she says, okay, I know what to do. So she invites Mac over to her house for dinner. She cooks this big Afghan meal. And she also invites all the members of the mosque who are nervous and scared of Mac because they've heard this rumor that he was going to kill them. And she serves Mac a big meal. Everyone sits around the table. And at the end of the meal, she looks Mac in the eye and she says, Brother Mac, is it true? Were you planning to kill us? And Mac, sort of lowers his head and he confesses, yes, I was going to do that. But I've learned so much from you all. You've changed me. And if I had known now if I had known then what I know now, I would never have thought of doing this. And so, they forgave him and allowed him to stay in the community. And he's still an active part of this Muncie community mosque. And it's just a beautiful story of forgiveness and of redemption, and it's a story that we don't hear very often these days, I would say.
Well, you certainly don't hear it on this platform, right? Because forgiveness and redemption it's as old as God. And it is something that I just think we don't spread these stories. We spread the evil stories. That is why, Mac was trained to hate Muslims, and I think that we have to investigate, go down that rabbit hole, Joshua Seftel, and find out how he, is this what we're teaching in the military? Because so many of these, and I'm from a military family. So many of these people who commit these murders have had some military training in high school and college. Is this what we're being taught here? We're coming upon Mother's Day for Peace, Joshua Seftel. And it was originally a pacifist holiday. After the Civil War, mothers were exhausted on both sides. And mothers took care of soldiers on both sides. They said, I don't care, you're somebody's child. So I'm going to take care of you. And so when I hear these stories, history is replete with these stories. What is our takeaway? Because we want people to go to the Illinois Holocaust Museum tomorrow night at 6 and see this movie. This is a movie you need to see. And we need to have them in our churches, in our mosques, in our synagogues, everywhere we can put it. And it will be at the Wayfarer Theaters on Wednesday, May 10th at 7 p.m. Joshua, the final minute of this show belongs to you.
Sure. So what happened with Mac in the military is he was having trouble coping with the violence he was having to commit and the killing that he was seeing and doing. And so he went to his superior and he said, what do I do? How do I cope? And the guy said, you need to think of them as a paper target. They're not human. Think of them as a paper target. Now, that is what he was taught. I'm not saying that's a military-wide policy, but that is what he was taught. And I imagine the person that taught him that was trying to help him to be able to cope with the job he had. Now, when he comes back and he has all this repressed feeling and guilt and pain, he starts watching Fox News and other things like that, and gets, getting misinformation or inaccurate information or skewed information about Muslims, and he's all mixed up. And next thing you know, he's building a bomb.
Well, we're being fed hatred by everybody, quite frankly. And we just humanizing everybody, and we have got to stop. Tomorrow night at the Holocaust Museum. No, I've got to stay right here. We'll talk on the other side of the break. But I want everyone to go to the Illinois Holocaust Museum, and I'll announce it again tomorrow. Illinois Holocaust Museum at 6 p.m., the Wayfarer Theaters. On the next night, you've got to see A Stranger at the Gate. This is so redemptive. Stay right here, Joshua Seftel, if you don't mind. I want you to speak to some people on my panel, because this is a compelling story. And everybody needs to see it. I love everybody. God bless you. Can't wait to be with you tomorrow on the Santita Jackson Show. See you tonight at Jonathan Jackson's Town Hall meeting at 6 o'clock at 27th and King Drive at the IBEW Local 34 Union Hall. God bless. Dwight McKee, Joshua Seftel.
I was going to say, it sounds like the Howard Pointer story.
Why don't you explain the Howard Pointer story to him?
Oh, I don't know who Howard Pointer is.
We're about to let you know.
Okay, good.
Well, we had, in Operation Breadbasket and Push, we had a bodyguard of Reverend Jackson's, whose name was Howard Pointer, who was a major active member of the organization.
And he was like his lead security guard, too, right?
The lead security guard. And he confessed that he was an undercover officer who was assigned to really take Reverend Jackson out. He was playing the same role with Reverend Jackson that Fred Hampton's bodyguard was playing for him. And the FBI assigned him there. He ingratiated himself with everybody in the organization. On Saturdays, but Monday through Friday, he was selling us out. got there, met the people, fell in love with the people. People fell in love with him. He became redeemed and became one of our chief organizers and advocates. And it reversed the whole process of what he was put there for. Love will make a way. And the fact that the people loved him so much, and he had never had that kind of love and exposure with the real civil rights community, converted him. And his assignment was destruction, but his life ended up a very constructive life. It ended up both Reverend Jackson and Congressman Jackson's chief bodyguard, security, and confidant.
You know, Joshua, he, in furtherance of that point, he would tell me, you know, I'm Reverend Jackson's daughter. He said, you know, he said, I had the whole layout of your family home. I knew what time you all went to school. I knew everything about you. He said, but as I got to know your father, your mother, your brothers, you, because my sister wasn't born yet, and then she was born. He said, as I got to see you all as a family, I said, phew. This would destroy these people. And he kept on going because he was still on assignment. He was part of what they call the Red Squad. And he was found out. And he came to my father and he apologized, and people in the organization wanted to hurt him and take him out. And my father would not let them do that. He said, you know, I think he's seen something. So let's give him another chance. And my father ended up eulogizing him. He and my brother, Congressman Jackson, ended up eulogizing him. And he became just a trusted member of the family. So, you know, when I hear this story, and thank you, Dwight, for bringing that back up, you know, we have experience with this, right? You know, love is the most powerful force in the universe, Joshua. It really is.
That's the tagline of the film is love conquers all.
Mm-hmm.
And the concern that I have about the time we live in right now is that, you know, in those instances, those people were able to come face to face with the people that they thought they hated. And they were able to get to know those people. But today, I think that's happening less because of all the, you know, internet, and you know, people don't come face to face as much, and I think that that concerns me because we're not getting to know the people that we need to get to know, so that we understand them better. And I don't know the solution to that.
Well, stop telling these lies about people. We dehumanize people every day, every single day, and we have got to stop. You know, it's just we've got to stop. You know, you see that. You see it all over the world. You see it inside of your home. You see it everywhere. And at some point, we have got to stop. You know, and the Bible tells us that you are tied to your enemy. God has promised you a seat at the table in the presence of your enemy, because guess what? The enemy is God's child too. So at some point, we have to just understand you are tied. I remember my brother Jesse and I used to get into it all the time. And my father would kind of, my parents don't put their thumbs on the scales, but my father said, yeah, your brother can be a lot. Okay? But at some point, he said to me, I'll never forget it. I was about 11 or 12, Joshua and Dwight and whoever else is still here. He said, you know what, baby, I am out of this. I was like, oh, what? He said, the reason you all keep getting into it is there's something in you there's something in him that is in you, and there's something that is in you that is in him, and you all going to have to work this out. That is the only reason you're in conflict. And I was not 13 when he told me this.
Wow. And what happened?
Well, I mean, we ended up working it out, but still, it was like cold water in my face. He said, "No. You don't get tied at the hip to someone who is not your mirror reflection." Someone, I mean, and that's what, look, the Israelis are tied to the Palestinians, blacks are tied to whites, on and on. I mean, you just keep on going with this thing. This is the way life is.
Mm-hmm.
It's just it. You can try to get around it if you want to. You're not going to escape it. We're tied in this thing together.
Words of wisdom. That I hope that I just hope that this film inspires people to, just on some small level, to be kind to each other. And we've had over 100 screenings of it, and with the people from the film, BB and Mac are there. They're going to be there tomorrow night.
Okay.
And the audience is inspired. I mean, when the film is over, they come up and they want to do something, and they sort of know what they need to do, which is to be kind to other people and to be accepting. And a lot of people have seen the film now. I think over 2 million. So I'm hoping that in some small way it's helping people.
Will you just show it as much as you can? Aaron?
This is Erin. I just want to thank you for making this film. I can't wait to see it. We have a Wayfarer Theaters in our town up in Highland Park in the North Shore, and they've done amazing events to really talk about the meaning of the film within our community, right? And I think stories like this are how we build bridges to a beloved community that many communities don't seek these days because it's hard to do that. So thank you for telling the story. It really is how we connect and for folks who can't meet folks that are unlike them. Not every community exists like that, or they're don't have the boldness to speak it out in person. This is how it's done, and I think it's a beautiful story. I can't wait to see it with my family. Thank you so much.
I agree. I think that is the theater where I think it's the theater in Highland Park where it's shown.
Yes.
Yeah. That's great.
Well, I tell you what I would like to do, I'm going to talk with Kitty and Kevin about seeing Dwight. I think it would be great to show it at Push, maybe during the convention. I don't know.
Amazing. Yeah, that'd be great. I mean, I know they're planning to show it at the White House and some other places. I mean, it got nominated for an Academy Award a few weeks ago, and it's. We want it to be seen, so we'd be honored if that could happen.
Well, I'm going to look into that. I mean, because the fact is, these are stories that need to be told. And I certainly have experienced it. I have experienced it, and I know the power of love, and I know it changes everything. And my great-grandmother used to tell us, Joshua, as long as what happens to you doesn't happen in you, you're going to be all right.
Right.
But the moment that the hatred that is directed your way gets inside of your heart, you got the problem too. You got the bug too.
Yes. Santita, can you come to one of the screenings?
I am really going to work on that. Because I was going to try and do it tomorrow night. Just give me, I think it'll be easier if I'm here at the Wayfarers. So let me see what I can do, because I do want to be there.
Yeah, I'd love for you to be my guest.
Oh, I would love to. I would love to. And while you're here, I'd love to introduce you to Reverend while you're in town.
Oh, I would love that.
Okay, so let's talk a little bit later on this afternoon, and let's work that out. Dwight, do you think you can come?
I'll look into it. I'll check into it.
Okay, maybe we can go together. I think it would be a good thing for you to do. Yes, I think. Aaron, what are you going to do? Aaron, you there, sweetie?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, maybe we can all go. Maybe not the same nights, but maybe we can.
Yeah, keep me posted. I would love that.
I think you'd enjoy meeting Mac and BB too.
I'd love to, because I'd love to interview him. I mean, because I think that we need to talk to people and not about them. And, because I'd like, have you read the Mother's Day for Peace poem by Julia Ward Howe? I will send it to you. And it is the declaration of peace for mothers all around the world. That was the beginning of Mother's Day. And she was an abolitionist. She was a woman who was, I'm not going to say she was ahead of her time. She was really trying to get us to where we needed to be. Abolitionist, feminist, womanist, all of these things. And she found that many mothers during the Civil War would take care of men from both sides. They didn't care because they said, look, this is somebody's child. I'm going to take care of him. Because I pray that some mother will take sympathy upon my child, will use her mother's love to save my child. And that's what these women were doing. And so Julia Ward Howe said, look, we must end war for all time across all racial, ethnic, religious, class lines. And women can do this, because I'm not going to send my child to war to unlearn all of the Christian ethos that I've taught him. And you can put Jewish, you can put Buddhist, you can put anything, you can insert your religion there. I'm not going to let you undo all the good I've tried to put into this child. I'm not going to let you do it. And I know you've got to do that. Dwight, you just made the brilliant point that wait, we can't be too hard on this young man who killed Jordan Neely, because he was doing what he was trained to do. He was trained to kill.
It's tragic.
It's tragic.
For everybody. And
it's called moral injury. And so many of our veterans suffer from it. They do. So, so we're going to be in touch with you, and we're going to see how much you'll see me tomorrow or Wednesday. And I'm going to try and do something with Aaron and see what Dwight can do. And maybe Reverend Wilson, but I certainly want you to meet Reverend while you're in town.
I would love that. It'd be an incredible thing for me.
Okay. No, we will do that.
I'll reach out through, should I reach out through Kevin?
You have my number.
Okay.
You have my number, so you can just call me. It's fine.
This is the number right now.
Yes. Okay. So you can just call me. Okay.
Great. Thank you, Santita.
Oh, thank you. God is good. You're right, Daryl.
Thank you so much.
No, thank you. I'm responding to all these people who just heard this interview. And, everybody, love is the most powerful force in the universe. Love, 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 love. It's not a suggestion, it's a commandment. We are to love one another. You don't have to like somebody. But I promise you, if you love them, eventually you'll find something to like. You will. Because you'll laugh about people. You'll just say, oh, here they go again. And you will laugh about them because you love them and you understand them. And let me tell you something. If you don't believe it, let someone die on you. The things that irritated you about them become the things that you remember about them most fondly, how they got on your nerves. And it becomes, instead of becoming a source of irritation, it becomes something that was endearing to you, something that makes you laugh about them. Think about that and try to treat someone as if this is the last time you're going to see them. Maybe you'll treat them better. Let's think about that.
I love it.
I've had too much grace in my life. Howard Pointer was not the only person who was sent to kill my father, who changed their minds. We had a couple of Secret Service agents in '83. One or two who were hostile, and many of them, they felt that this was the bum detail. They were like, oh, here we go. You talk about, I must be way down on the totem pole. By the time they were finished with Reverend's first campaign, they were fighting to get on the next one. Because they were shocked, for example, that like for Thanksgiving, because they're with you 24/7, 365. That, we were like, we've got these people are going to be away from their families for Thanksgiving and for Christmas. So what we did, because we always had like 50, 60 people at the house for Thanksgiving, we decided that we were going to rotate at the table. So, you know, not only did my mother make the turkey and ham and blah, 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 and all the people made food for them, you know, we said, oh, no, no, no. You can keep keep it in the trailer so that you can have some extra food, but you're going to come and we're going to have family dinner. Because you're not with your families today. You're going to be with us. We're your family now, functionally. They were like, what? What? We were like, yeah, come on. Come on. So, you know, we got up and we were serving them dinner, you know, because this was their Thanksgiving too. And, you know, several of them were tearful. They were like, no one's ever done this for us. And we were like, hey, you know what? Well, now someone has. Maybe no one even thought about it, but maybe because my great-grandmother was someone's maid. She was Miss Marshall's housekeeper, and I used to go on her job with her. And then maybe 2 or 3 years later, we had a housekeeper. So when I saw Miss Malone, when I saw Mrs. Neal, I saw my great-grandmother. You know, that changes you. Changes you. When I saw Miss Katie, I saw my great-grandmama. I mean, I had some women who were wonderful and who helped to raise us. And Dwight, you knew all of them. And I saw Mrs. Matilda Burns when I saw each one of those women. That's who I saw. And maybe we should do that. Start stepping into someone else's shoes. How about that? I was talking to a Jewish friend of mine, and we were comparing our grandmothers. I have one grandmother who's a tough customer, tough, but she'd had a tough life. And we were laughing about how similar our grandmothers were, but his grandmother survived the Holocaust. And my grandmother survived Jim Crow in the South. And I say survived it, and she was a migrant worker who would get on the boat and go through South and Central America and the Caribbean and work. She would do daily and seasonal work. It made her a little hard. She didn't have a daddy like I did. Her mother died when she was about 12. And just human beings we are who we are. And we do what we do, everybody. Just love somebody. And love yourself. Forgive yourself for the things that you've done that were wrong. And truly be sorry. And let's move on. Let's just grow up, everybody. I love you. Dwight, Joshua, thank you. I'm looking forward to meeting you, Joshua. I'm looking forward to meeting the whole crew. I love you, love you, love you. God bless you.
Thank you so much.
No, thank you. Thank you. This has been a blessing. It's been a real gift, a real gift. I love you, everybody. I'll see you tomorrow on the Santita Jackson Show, and tonight, hopefully, at Congressman Jackson's town hall meeting from 6 to 8. Get over there so you can get some little sneaky snacks at 5:30. Yeah. Well, you know, I'm still a foodie. I love you, everybody. Blessings to you, Jewel, and Daryl, and Ty. Oh, you're down there in Mobile? Oh, Irene Ware was one of my godmothers. Oh, boy, I miss her every single day. Ooh-wee. I love you. I love you, everybody. I'll see you tomorrow, tonight, and then tomorrow, God willing. God bless.